Hello and welcome. You can see on your screen, you've reached the informational webinar on this upcoming program here at Rotman School of Management at the University of Toronto. This course is entitled Building Financial Acumen for Non-Financial Managers. Better decision-making with financial acuity. So this is a exciting program here. We're going to learn all about this course as we make our way through this informational webinar. And we're going to touch on two key areas today. Firstly, the content of this program. What is in the course? What can you expect to learn? And secondly, the delivery of that content. How is the learning delivered to ensure that you get the most out of the program and have the best learning experience possible? So a lot in store here as we make our way through the session. And thank you again for being here and welcome to this learning community. With that, here's what we're going to be doing today. We'll start by learning more about this program. What is this program about? What are you going to be able to take away, and what are sort of those tactical components that you'll be able to learn at the end of this program? Secondly, the learning experience. So this is where we're going to dive into some of those more interactive components as you think about what that day-to-day experience is like being a participant here in the program. So a lot in store as we make our way through. We're going to be following up with you after today's session to ensure you have everything you need as you seek to begin this program. So let's learn more about the Rotman School. Let's learn more about this program. I am joined here today by your course faculty. They're going to take us through this curriculum overview here in just a moment. But before I hand over the spotlight, we want to better set the stage for you and give you more information about this community that you're joining. So what is this larger ecosystem here at the Rotman School of Management? The Rotman School of Management, its executive programs are Canada's leading provider for open enrollment programs, and they enable leaders to develop the capacity to transform themselves. So that's a tall order. These courses are meant to give you a transformational experience. Your organizations, your own profession, your own trajectory, really giving you the knowledge and skills that you need, not only to learn, but also to put into practice and make practical application of your knowledge to have that transformational experience. So there are specialized business education programs throughout here at the Rotman School aimed at helping individuals, organizations to address today's business challenges and opportunities. This includes a wide gamut of training, leadership, management programs, strategic human resources, governments, finance for public, private, and nonprofit sectors. So we're looking at all of these different areas across our learning here. And we also work at the Rotman School directly with organizations and their executives around the globe to address the unique challenges and opportunities by designing customized programs focusing on helping their unique organization, their leaders achieve better business results. So the Rotman School is doing a lot of transformational things in the world of executive education, but again, really aimed at helping you to take your knowledge into a place of action. So how can we do that? And how does this course help you to do that as you think of better decision-making with financial acuity? This course is really designed in this virtual e-learning environment to help mid to senior level professionals from non-finance backgrounds to understand and build a firm financial literacy. So that's who this program was designed for, and what that's going to allow you to do. You're going to learn the basics of finance that are going to set the groundwork for understanding decision making within an organization and making sound investment decisions. It's going to help you to be a better leader, a better, more strategic decision maker. And as you think about what the current landscape looks like, you'll see some stats there on the right side of your screen. At 78% of Fortune 100 CEOs come from non-finance backgrounds, but making huge financial decisions. At 17% is the demand for finance skills. It's going to grow by 17% by 2028. So we see, in terms of the job market, we see an upward trajectory, more and more organizations, more and more companies needing folks to have this financial acumen. And then 44% of Canadians have taken financial education courses over the past 5 years. So we really do see a slant more in this direction as folks are learning to upskill in order to stay relevant in the modern workforce. So that is what this course is designed to help you to do: make better decisions, stay current, and really be a driver of change and innovation based around financial acumen. So this course was designed by two expert faculty here at the Rotman School. And as promised, they are here to tell us more about this course, how they've designed it, and why. We are joined here firstly by Professor Walid Hijazi, who is a professor of international business at the Rotman School of Management at the University of Toronto. He's researched, advised, and testified extensively on global competitiveness and is currently working on a series of studies that shed light on the competitiveness and productivity of Canadian organizations. He teaches macro and global economics in Rotman's MBA and EMBA programs, and has also delivered lectures in over 300 countries. Dr. Hijazi has also developed and teaches successful MBA course in Islamic finance, the first such course in Canada. He's extensively involved in enhancing the prevalence of Islamic finance in Canada, and he's currently writing a book on Islamic project finance and has several ongoing research projects in the area. He holds a PhD and an MA from the University of Toronto and an HBA from the University of Western Ontario. He's joined here by his co-collaborator and co-faculty, Professor Wendy Rottenberg, who's a professor of accounting and finance at the Rotman School of Management, University of Toronto. And in addition to her professorship, she really focuses her teaching and research interests on financial management, corporate restructuring, and international accounting and finance. Two expert voices here at the Rotman School who have taken the incredible wealth of knowledge here at the Executive Education Program and made that available and accessible to all of you. So thank you to both of our professors for designing this program. I'm going to invite you into the spotlight now. We'd love to hear more from you about what brought you to this course and what brought you to this area of focus in your career. So Professor Hijazi, I will start with you. Thanks again for being here. We'd love to hear more about your background and what brought you to this work.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Marie, and thank you everyone for joining this webinar. Before I talk about what brought me here, I want to congratulate everyone watching this webinar and considering this course. Wendy and I have worked at the Rotman School for 25 years. We've taught thousands of students in the undergraduate, in the MBA, and in these executive programs, and we see what these programs do for people. They really allow you to upskill, to stay current, to make better decisions, to be better managers, and to be better leaders. But the bottom line is what these programs do is allow you to change that trajectory in your career. The fact that you're even considering this program deserves a huge congratulation. So I applaud you for that. Now, this program is something that Wendy and I talked about for several years, and the genesis of it was the need for people to improve their financial acumen. There is so much evidence to show that whether you're in a finance role or not, and Marie talked about at the beginning, the number of senior leaders and CEOs that come from non-financial backgrounds, whether you're in a finance role or not, having well-developed financial acumen, being able to understand financial issues and make critical decisions is highly related to your upward mobility within an organization. It helps you do better in your career. Not to mention the fact it helps you make better financial decisions in your personal life. So there's two big benefits to this. So Wendy and I, we teach in so many programs at Rotman, but there's a realization on the lack of financial acumen on the part of so many people who may have done a marketing degree, a history degree, degrees in non-business related areas, but now are managers or starting their own business, but really haven't had that training in finance. So what Wendy and I decided to do was to come together, think very carefully about what material in a full program would most help people like you make better financial decisions, improve your financial acumen, improve the progression in your career, and improve the decision making. And so that's what this program really is about, is helping you become better at financial decisions, improve your critical thinking skills, be better in your career, and also make better financial decisions. And Wendy, maybe I'll go over to you. Wendy?
Sure, thank you for all that, Waleed. I think that maybe what I could add is that sometimes what you really need is the terminology and the concepts, those foundational pieces, in order to better participate in the conversations that are happening around you, and also to give you a way to develop the analytical skills that you need to make proper personal and professional financial decisions.
You know, and Wendy, that's interesting that you bring that up, because do you remember we had that big roundtable at that bank? And the whole issue of vocabulary is so interesting, because we had a group of executives around the table and we asked them, you know, do you think your lack of understanding of finance and the vocabulary, do you think that's hurting your career progression? And some of them said no, but Wendy and I disagreed, because when people start talking about P&Ls, profit and loss, financial accounting, management accounting, risk, if you don't understand those issues, you're not part of the conversation. And for you to think that other people don't notice that, that's incorrect. Other people around you really see if you don't have that vocabulary and that set of interests. So this course helps with the vocabulary and really helping you understand all of these fundamental issues in finance.
Absolutely. Thank you, Professor Hijazi, Professor Rottenberg, again, for being here and taking us through this content. I'm going to reshare my screen. As we take this a step further, we'd love to learn more specifically about this program. You talk about, you know, the importance of financial acumen, and you're absolutely right. As we think about lifelong learning, you know, and as we think about the career trajectory, in order to really stay ahead, no longer taking sort of that episodic approach to learning, where you simply, you know, take courses for a condensed period of time, then never again need to. But really, as you think about your career growing, the skills that you need, the agility that you need does change, and certainly as we think about the current context of today's environment and the current skills as well. So building programs like this that allow us to stay current, that allow us to upskill and to really go out and get the knowledge and the frameworks that we need in order to make a huge difference and a transformational difference. Thank you for putting this together and making this available. Would love to learn more from you about those learning objectives. So I'm going to advance this forward to the next slide. This is that overarching sort of framework for what folks are going to be able to take away from this program. But we'd love to hear from both of you about what you had in mind when you designed this course. What are some of those overarching takeaways?
Wendy, would you like to go first?
Oh, well, I guess what I'll do to begin is to say that the way we structured the program is that Walid will teach the first module, the Defining the World of Finance. And then the next three modules are mine, where we talk about the language of investments, the language of financial reports, and also internal budgeting control, performance, et cetera, the managerial accounting. And then Professor Hijazi comes back and teaches you about corporate finance and about options. So that's how we've structured in terms of how Walid and I work together to deliver the material to you. And the sort of foundational piece is module one. So Walid, can you tell us about how we define the world of finance in the program? And then I'll continue on with the next few modules.
Yeah, thank you for that, Wendy. So, you know, if you think about the last 15 years, we've had two major events, negative economic events. In 2008, we had the global financial crisis. And in 2020, we had the pandemic. And even right now with the pandemic, as we're exiting the pandemic and the economy is recovering, we have this high inflation. And with this high inflation, there's lots of negative things that come with inflation. So this is why central banks, the US Federal Reserve, the Bank of Canada, the European central banks around the world are raising interest rates to slow the economy. If you think of this big macro environment and you think about all of these pressures, now you think about all of these companies operating within this macro environment. So you think about interest rates and inflation, impacts on GDP, the economy, impacts on unemployment rates, interest rates, the cost of finance, in order to get access to credit. This is what the program is going to do. So in that very first session, I paint this picture of the global economy. You think about the 2008 financial crisis, you think about the 2020 pandemic, you think about these two massive recessions, you think about what's happened to interest rates and inflation and unemployment, and then you think about what impact that then has on the companies that operate. But session one goes even further than these broad macro issues. It also talks about the importance of financial markets. And when you think about the importance of financial markets, how does a company get access to credit? So here I am, I start a business, I start to grow, and I have to get access to credit. What is the primary market? What is the secondary market? Wendy talked about the vocabulary. What does that mean? Well, if I want to raise money in the public markets, I have to take my company, fix my financial statements, which Wendy will talk about in the second and third sessions, but I have to get my financial statements in order to go into the public markets in order to take my company public, an initial public offering. Okay, so how do financial markets work? What are the various financial instruments and ways in which I can get access to credit? And then what are the features of financial markets? There's this idea called market efficiency. And market efficiency is this idea of what information is reflected in the financial markets. But maybe just to put it right down to what it means, how can you make money in financial markets? And what kind of information do you need to have access to? We also talk in that first module about confidence that Canadians and Americans and citizens need to have in financial markets before they put their money into those markets. So we talk a lot about insider trading and those people that trade using information that is known to managers but not known to the public. And why that's a problem, because financial markets are so very important, because it's hard to imagine a prosperous economy without well-functioning financial markets. The last thing we talk about in that opening module, there's a lot there, but is also what are stocks, what are bonds, what are these different financial instruments, and how can you think about how to value them? So that's that first module, which is a big module and covers lots of area, but sets the stage for motivating why it's important to now think about the next 5 modules within that context. So Wendy, back over to you.
Sure, thank you. So once we've got an understanding of the role of financial markets and how organizations use them to issue securities that investors will buy, then we have to think about, well, how do investors know what the difference is between different kinds of securities and how much they should be willing to pay for them when the companies are selling them? So we first, in module 2, we refresh on the different types of investments, on their role in financing organizations, and what kind of math do we need to figure out the value of these securities. And so we learn how to do calculations of future value of investments with compound interest. And we think about the cash flows to investors from the different types of securities. And once we know the cash flows, we can use that financial math that we've tooled up on to figure out how to value the cash flows of a bond and the cash flows of an equity investment. So that's really what module 2 is about. And it leads us into module 3, because how do investors know cash flow from organizations? Well, for that, they're going to need to read the financial reports that are available to public investors. So in module 3, we work on how do we understand these financial reports that go out to external users. We know that companies have internal reports as well for their own management purposes, but we're going to start in module 3 with what about these external financial reports that investors use to value securities, to assess what the cash flows will be, to do those calculations that we learn how to do in module 2. And there's really only 2 key financial reports that companies create. all the other financial reports that you'll see are derived from these two. The two main ones are called the balance sheet and the income statement. So we'll look at each of those, what information is in them, and how do we analyze that information. The balance sheet is really, it's like a stock. It's like, how much do you have of different resources? How much do you have of different obligations? How much is the equity that the shareholders own worth? And so that's the balance sheet, is what are the resources, what are the assets, and how are they financed? And the income statement is more of a flow concept. It's more of a what happened over a particular time period to generate earnings and to generate the cash flows, which ultimately are going to go to the investors, right? If the company does well. So we learn also how to analyze this corporate information from the financial reports, both in a sort of a time series way, how things unfold over time. So you could compare a company with itself in previous time periods. But we also think about how to compare companies with other companies, and that's called cross-sectional analysis. So there's time series uses of the financial information, and there's cross-sectional uses. Now, the other thing we do with financial reports is we use the data in them to measure some key financial attributes of organizations. So the things you'd want to know as an investor are things like, can the company pay its bills on time? How much debt financing does the company has? How financially risky is it? How well is it using its financial resources? And also, how profitable is it? Right? That's where the cash flows come from. So that's what we do in the language of financial reports. We look at the financial information that is available to the outside investors, and we figure out how well the company is doing, and on all the different dimensions that I just described. So that's the outside information. But what about the inside information that companies use to manage themselves? We call that management accounting, right? Because that's the information system for the managers. And in module 4, there's really 3 things we do. We talk about how a company makes its financial plans, the planning budgeting process. We also look, sometimes people call management accounting cost accounting because there are different kinds of costs, right? For instance, there's some to do with that just happen over a time period, like making interest payments. There's some that are related to products that you're producing. There's different categories. And then the other thing is we look at how you make decisions about which long-term investments a company should make, and that's called capital project analysis. So module 2 is financial math and how to value corporate securities. Module 3 is where you get the information from in order to do that. And module 4 is how you use internal accounting information to make good investment decisions within a company. Right, and then we move on to module 5, and you're back to Walid.
Thank you for that, Wendy. Just as I hear you describe it, I want to take the course all over again myself, even though we created it together. And then, so, Wendy just talked about, the inside of the company, getting all of those financial statements fully complete and accurate, and all of the things you can learn from them. Now coming back to corporate finance and thinking about, okay, now here I am managing a company, a small company, a medium company, a large company. And now the question becomes, how do I make corporate finance decisions? How do I make decisions about whether or not to undertake a particular investment project? Okay, so Wendy talks to you about valuing these cash flows. So you think about a stock, you think about a bond. If you own a bond or a stock, you get a series of cash flows. With the bond, you're going to get the interest payments and the capital and the principal at the end. With a stock, you're going to get dividends and capital gains. Okay. And then you start to value these. And how do you value them? That requires a little bit of math. But what's great is calculators allow you just to plug in some key parameters and it gives you the answer. But what really becomes difficult is to think about risk. That's the tough part. Now you start to say, I've got 2 cash flows, I've got 2 stocks, a stock for a company that's very stable and low risk. Think of a telecom or a utility or a blue chip company, which we talk about in the program as well. So think of like an IBM or a Microsoft, a really well-established company. They have low risk. In contrast to startups or companies that are in highly volatile industries, they have high risk. So now the question to think about is, when I'm trying to value these cash flows, how do I think about risk? How do I quantify the risk of these two different environments, these two different businesses? How do I come up with a risk-adjusted discount rate? Now, some of you may be saying, what is Waleed talking about? This is why Wendy's sessions are so very important, because it's the vocabulary. What do we mean when we talk about discount rates? What do we mean when we talk about risk and so on? So really what I do in Module 5 is get you to think about making investment decisions, getting you to think about risk. So when I do discount cash flows, I'm able to conceptually think about risk and take that risk and come up with what's called a risk-adjusted discount rate. What that just means is that a more accurate reflection of the value of the investment that you're considering. Now, there's lots of models or frameworks or ways to think about risk. The one that we're going to talk about in this program is the capital asset pricing model. So if you go to Yahoo Finance right now and pull up your favorite publicly listed company and look for its beta. What is the beta? The beta is this measure of what we call systematic risk. So when you think about risk faced by a company or an investor, we'll talk about all of this during the program. There's systematic risk and there's unsystematic risk. One form of risk, unsystematic, you can diversify it away. Systematic, you cannot. What that then means is the strategies that you deploy in making investment decisions, you have to formally account for this risk. So we provide a framework for doing that. So you'll now understand, what does it mean when someone talks about a company's beta? You can go to Yahoo Finance and get it for any publicly traded company. But what does it mean conceptually? And what is the implication of a company's beta for how you think about investing in that company? Or from the company perspective, if I'm going to pursue a project, how understanding the project's beta or the project's risk matters. Then there's this whole other area that we think about, which many, especially smaller companies that begin to grow, really have trouble understanding. And that has to do with something called the weighted average cost of capital, which is, I have several sources of capital. Where should I access capital from? So as you grow in your company, or as you want to deploy a new strategy, what you need to do is get access to capital from financial markets. But we've talked about financial markets in the previous modules. So once in Module 5, we're ready to go, we start to talk about getting access to capital. One thing that many people have trouble understanding is, why is the cost associated with equity so much higher than it is associated with debt? And the reason for that, and again, we discussed this in detail in the program, is that equity holders, the shareholders in the company, are last in line to get paid, whereas the debt holders are at the front of the line. So that means debt is less risky because the debt holders are going to get their money first. So you would expect the interest rate or how much debt holders earn to be lower than what shareholders earn, because shareholders are last in line to get paid. You have to pay your debt holders. You only pay your shareholders if there's money left over. So then we talk about the weighted average cost of capital, and then we talk about debt. And when you borrow money in financial markets and pay interest on it, you're able to deduct that interest from your taxes. So what that then means is if I have two companies that are otherwise identical, but one begins to borrow money to use for whatever reason, and then starts to pay interest to the creditors, now what ends up happening, the taxes that they pay are lower and the value of the company rises. What does that mean? As companies begin to borrow, the value of the company rises, it increases. So the natural question one people ask is, well, why don't we just leverage up? What does that mean? Why don't I just go out and borrow as much as I can? Because if it's true, the company's value increases as I borrow more. Why don't I just borrow as much as I can? And that's where we have to bring in something called distress costs, or the cost of default, the probability of default, or the likelihood that you won't be able to make your debt payments. So we have this thing called the trade-off theory. This is important because as companies begin to do really well and they start to borrow, you don't want to overextend yourself. You need to understand that borrowing some money increases the value of the company, but at some point, too much debt raises what's called distress cost, or the likelihood of not being able to make your debt payments. So we talk about that, and it is a lot, but you know, Wendy and I spent a lot of time to make this pedagogically appealing, meaning that you will really enjoy this material. Now, we then go to the last topic, which is options. And when you think of options, it's a more advanced topic, but options are prevalent everywhere. I can guarantee almost that that everyone in this webinar has had an option. They've had the ability to do something, and it would be equivalent to what's called an option. So a call option is the right, but not the obligation, to buy an asset at a predetermined price at some point in time. Okay, between today and some point in time, term to maturity. Put options is the right, but not the obligation to sell. So why do people have these put options and these call options? There's a whole bunch of reasons within finance, but just think about leasing a car. When people lease a car for 3 years, and at the end of the 3 years, they can return the car to the company you leased it from, or you have the option to buy it at the buyout price. That's a call option. Call option just gives you the right to buy an underlying asset some point in time at a predetermined price. So call options and put options are incredibly prevalent within financial markets, but they're very prevalent also in our day-to-day affairs, even though we don't notice that. Very often when you're working in a company, your company will pay you, but they also give you options. So if they give you what's called, let's say, a call option on the stock, let's say the stock price today is $50. So the price today is 50. Let's say they give you a call option, which gives you the right to buy the stock at 55. Well, you look at this and say, wow, I can buy it for 50 in the market right now. Why would this option giving me the right to buy it for 55? Why would that be of value? It only becomes valuable when the stock price goes above 55. What happens when the stock price goes to 60 or to 70 or to $80? You have the right to buy it for 55. So now what that does is that gets you as an employee to be really, really motivated to make the stock price go up, to work really, really hard. So within compensation schemes, many people don't understand it in this context, but these are call and put options embedded in many, many places. The last thing I'll say about options is financial market participants, people operating in financial markets, very often they have an expectation of what might happen to the stock price between today and some point in the future. So what they can do is, rather than buy or sell the stock, they can buy what are called these options or derivative securities and allow them to benefit from the increase or the decrease in the price. And what this program will show you is how you can benefit from expectations that turn out to be correct. Of course, if they don't turn out to be correct, it's a bit of a problem. But if they turn out not to be correct, using a portfolio of options would probably be less costly than buying the stocks themselves. The very last thing I'll say about options is it's also used as a hedging instrument. And what does this mean? Well, you're going to have to take the course to find out. But I'm going to sort of stop there, but just say that from the very first module, then going through Wendy's 3 modules, a lot of the terms that we're talking about, we actually define them. And I'll go back to Marie in just a second, but Marie's going to talk about all of the interactive activities that you're going to be doing during the program to really allow you to read, interact, do exercises, but to really absorb what these terms mean. And so that when you get to these more advanced topics in corporate finance and options, all of the terminology is second nature, and then you'll find how smoothly everything goes. So before I go back to Marie, Wendy, would you like to add anything?
Oh, the only thing I thought of that I would add would be that in the options topic, we tie back into what companies are doing with their investment decisions, because options are really choices, right? They're opportunities. And we have something called real options, which is real investment opportunities. So it also ties back in with that topic. And you can see how all of the different modules fit together and reinforce each other.
And I'm so happy, Wendy, you brought up the issue of real options, because, so very often companies will do things and financial markets may not even know why they do, but they then pay off in exactly the right time. So real options, what a great additional topic to throw in there, Wendy. Thank you for that. So Marie, back over to you.
Terrific. Thank you both again for being here and taking us through this content in terms of what folks are going to be learning here in this program. And certainly as well, as we think about who this course was designed for, that's an important component here as well. So we just wanted to kind of showcase for those with us, kind of those high arching themes that we heard from both of our professors here. This is a virtual e-learning program, as you know, but it's really designed for those mid to senior level professionals. So we have a more advanced cohort typically here in this program. And these folks are from non-financial backgrounds, really wanting to make better business decisions, learning these tools, methodologies, and frameworks in finance and accounting and investment. So if you need to be able to communicate more effectively across financial teams, broaden your perspective and understanding of business in general by learning about the aspects of accounting and finance, and learn how to use financial statements and key performance indicators for making better decisions, this program is going to be designed for you. So of course, this spans across different industry areas, different geographies, different kind of backgrounds, different types of industry areas and professional roles. So we know you're sort of here in this session to learn the answer to this question. Is this program right for you? And certainly we encourage you to let us know there in the question box. Let us know here in the session if you have any questions related to program fit. A big part of the next step in your journey is to have an advising conversation with one of our course advisors. They know this course intimately. And so as you're thinking about if this really is the next step for you, we certainly encourage you to get connected with an advisor, and we'll show you how to do that here in just a moment. But as promised, we did want to take you through some more of those experiential components here of the program. So as you think about building financial acumen within your own organization, one of the things that we'll be doing here in the course, and certainly would love to hear from our professors if you have any thoughts to share about this as well. But these case study analysis that we do being a really unique way for us to examine multiple aspects of financial acumen, how it's sort of fleshing out, coming to life in real world scenarios, and really taking these case studies and analyzing them from multiple angles as you surface key challenges, key frameworks that you can then map onto your own organizational structure and your own environment. So would love to hear from you, Professor Hijazi, a little bit more about these case studies and what we're really tackling here.
Yeah. And these are really, really rich case studies. And the nice thing about these case studies is we could use them in each of the 6 modules because they're so very rich. I mean, I could take the Costco, the Walmart, the Enron, and talk about it with the perspective of each and every one of them. And of course, when you think about the global financial crisis, module 1, and setting the stage for this big macro environment that we're operating in, we know that Lehman Brothers went bankrupt in October of 2008. And the day that happened, the stock market fell by 1,000 points, which was a huge event at the time. And, a big question that we ask is, at the very beginning, Wendy and I talked about the importance of the financial system and how the financial system has to be stable and you can't let it collapse. So governments must step in the presence of a financial crisis just to make sure that the banks do not collapse. So the big question to ask is, why did governments let Lehman Brothers collapse? And then why, in the aftermath of the collapse, did they realize it was a mistake? And then in the immediate aftermath of the collapse of Lehman Brothers, and the financial system starts to collapse for reasons that we'll talk about, why the government came in with something called TARP, the Troubled Asset Program, to really help bail out the banks. But if I may, I'll just talk about one more before I go over to Wendy. But the Enron case, and you think about financial statements that Wendy talks extensively about. I talk about the importance of transparency and disclosure. What that means is that when you as an investor or you as a company interacting with other companies, you want to make sure that the financial statements that they are showing you are giving you a true and accurate reflection of what's going on. So how does that happen? If a company simply says to you, these are my financial statements, how do you know they're accurate? And this is why this whole role of the big accounting firms, which is called auditing, they actually audit and certify that the financial statements are an accurate reflection of what's going on. So we'll talk about the Enron example, where the accounting firm at the time they actually audited the financial statements, but really misled investors. So investors were investing in this company called Enron, their savings, their retirement savings, and so on, only to realize after the fact that the accounting firm was actually not doing their due diligence. So this is why this issue of transparency and disclosure, having accurate financial statements, are fundamental. The other reason why Enron is such a great example from a personal perspective, from your personal perspective, is this issue of diversifying risk. Those people that were working at Enron, that were employees of Enron, they were encouraged by management to invest their retirement savings in Enron stock. Think about what that did. When Enron collapsed and went out of business, people that worked there lost their job. They lost the pension that they were going to get from Enron because Enron went bankrupt. And even their savings, which were put into Enron, they even lost that. And this is one of the big learnings, is that the last thing you want to do as an individual is be so overexposed to one company, because the people that put their life savings into Enron stock, when Enron collapsed, they lost their job, they lost their pension and their life savings. So this is why we talk about the importance of diversification, but also Wendy's sessions on financial statements and why they have to be accurate. All of this ties together beautifully in all of these cases. So I've talked about Lehman Brothers and Enron, but we could talk about all of the cases. Wendy, over to you.
Sure, and you're 100% right. Every single one of these case examples could fit into any module. For instance, in the financial accounting module where I teach about the financial reports, I use Costco extensively as an example. And the reason I do is because people can relate to Costco. They've experienced their business model. And then you get to see how to interpret the financial attributes of the company, how to use the financial reports to get measures of what's going on in the business in a way that relates back to your personal experience when you're in that organization's shops. And so I think it's really helpful in all of our modules, the way that we take particular company examples that people can relate to, that they've read about in the news, or they've had personal experiences with the company. And I think it helps it helps learners to really internalize the concepts in the courses in each module.
Yeah, and you know, one of the funnest exercises that we do in the program is when we talk about the beta and the risk of companies, is just to get the students to think about all of these different companies and get them to think, okay, what can you guess what the beta, what the risk is for the company? And, people tend to be right, Wendy, when we do this, for low risk companies like a Walmart or a Costco or a Target or a Coke is a low beta. And it's really a lot of fun. So the program is very interactive.
So let me steal the spotlight from you both here. And segue into some of those interactive components. So thank you for telling us more about these case studies again and how they add value to that overall scope of learning, really broadening out as you examine multiple perspectives here. So this is a beautifully designed program, and thank you both for putting it together. As we think about the ways in which this course is delivered, we did want to give you a little bit more of an insider's view, sort of behind the curtain, and how this course is delivered. So I'm going to speak on that for a few moments, and then we'll invite our professors back and close out with final words of advice. So be sure to stay on with us here. But as you think about this program, what you see here on your screen are a variety of activities. So we kickstart this course with what we call Orientation Week. That's an entire week where you'll get to know the learning platform, you'll get to know your peers in the program, you'll get to know your faculty colleagues, as well as your teaching team. So there are a lot of relationships you'll be building. You'll have that full week to really immerse yourself, get ready for the learning. And then we kickstart those modules that our faculty talked about here as they took us through the various modules that we'll be going through here in the course, that intensive sort of 6 weeks of learning. You're going to be learning yourself as an individual. You'll have your peers who you're learning together with and from. You have program leaders that are industry experts that have been selected to come into this course and serve as your daily teaching fellows, if you will, guiding every step throughout your process here. They give you individualized feedback on all of your assignments. They host office hours. We'll get to more of that here in just a moment. But your teaching team is comprised of these industry experts. And of course, a layer beyond that, we have our course faculty who we heard from here today, very involved in the development of this course, and then that broader community here at the Rotman School. So there's a lot of different layers of teaching and learning that are taking place here. You'll have that week to get to know everyone. And then throughout that 6 weeks of intensive learning, here's what that looks like day to day. So at the beginning of each of those 6 weeks, a set of content is released, and you have an entire week to make your way through that content around a schedule that works for you. So you and your peers are in the same weekly cadence, but those daily individual schedules are yours to design at your convenience. So much of the activities that you see here on your screen are asynchronous activities, allowing you, again, to engage fully in the material, but also to do so in a highly convenient way around a schedule that works for you. This course is available on the go from a mobile device, so you can watch videos, take part in office hours, join webinars, and engage in course activities, all from a smartphone or a tablet on the go. So a lot of convenience as you think about designing your own schedule, accessing this materials in a single platform on the go, and being able to fully immerse yourself in learning while staying in your professional environment. At the beginning of the week, that course content is released, and it begins with on-demand video lectures. These are 5 to 7 minute video clips from our expert faculty outlining the core concepts. So you'll get to watch those videos as many times as you need to around a schedule that works for you, really sink your teeth into the knowledge. And then when you step away from those brief video segments, you'll roll up your sleeves and you'll engage in a variety of activities aimed at helping you practice your knowledge, really understanding the fundamentals of these frameworks and methodologies and bringing them to life within the platform, within this course. And then you're challenged to bring that into your professional professional environment as well. So this program learning experience is truly interactive and integrated with your professional and personal life. In many ways, that strengthens the overall learning because you're in this fully immersive environment where you're really engaging with the content. So this is not what we call a massive open online course or watching a YouTube video or reading a book where you're simply receiving static knowledge. That is not what this course is. This course is a highly specialized program that's designed to have you practice those tools and bring them into a place of action during your time in the program. And you do have an entire year in this course. So beyond that extensive 6 weeks, you'll be touching back into this course and have access to the full breadth, the full library of knowledge for that entire calendar year. So you'll continue to apply your knowledge, reach out for support with your peers and your teaching team. In that way, this course is kept current, it's kept relevant. No two cohorts are alike. It's a reciprocal learning environment. You're bringing in your challenges, you're bringing in your goals, and you're getting met where you're at. You get that individualized learning experience here. So this is a highly engaging course. You're going to be, all of that to say, if you had to say 2 words that really describe the overall learning experience, it's engaging. So a lot of relationships, a lot of engagement, a lot of discussion, a lot of bringing to life your learning, and a lot of collecting insights from others on the teaching team. So engaging. And then secondly, we've said it before, convenient. We want to make sure that your learning is one that you can integrate with your life. We believe that that's going to make your learning more powerful and allow us to deliver on that mission here at the Rotman School to help you to have a transformational learning experience, not just an interesting one, but one that truly allows you to transform yourself, your organization, and your career. So these exercises are interactive. They're tried activities, playbooks, polls, discussion boards, feedback from your program leaders, quizzes that allow you to self-assess and really be the driver of your own learning experience as you make your way through the content. So that's the kind of general pedagogical approach to the way that we deliver the content here. Again, fully immersive, engaging, interactive environment that's really going to give you the knowledge, the skills, and the tools to bring this to life and to make a change. All of that sort of centering around your career trajectory and what we know about advancing skills and knowledge in order to stay relevant in the modern workplace. And so one of the great advantages or sort of returns on your investment in this program is a chance to earn a credential here from the University of Toronto Rotman School of Management executive programs. This credential here from the Rotman School is a formal credential. You can put this on your social media, your LinkedIn, your resume, and it really showcases your learning, knowledge, and expertise here. And for those of you looking to springboard into career advancement opportunities to continue to grow your reach, grow your impact, certainly having these sort of credentials that showcase your skilling, that showcase the ways in which your career is sort of evolving and growing is going to be a key and essential tool to allowing you to grow your career. So a huge return on your investment. If you think about sort of the tangible, you have your learning, you have those core frameworks, you have the case study analysis, all of that learning. Those are the tangible takeaways. You have the certificate of completion to really showcase all of it. But then you have those non-tangible takeaways, the ways in which, as our professors described, you're going to be able to bring these themes and concepts to better financial decision-making, not only within your organization, but within your own personal life, within your own personal finances. Another sort of softer or non-hidden or sort of hidden takeaway here, return on your investment here in this program, is a chance to broaden your professional network. You're going to be gaining peers and colleagues from all across the globe. You're going to be forming those communities, of advice and support. If you discover a niche area of interest in the course, you want to explore it further, you're going to have your peers and your program leaders really celebrating that learning and helping to provide you with those resources and next steps. So we think a lot about your learning, both in terms of the content here in the course, but in terms of your overall learning experience and the ability of this program to really usher and springboard you forward into making transformational impact. So there's a lot in store here. We hope you'll join us for the program. It's beginning here just around the corner. And the next step is to go over to the course website where you can download the course brochure. That gives you everything we talked about here today and more. It's a beautifully designed, comprehensive brochure. So if you're especially conscientious and you want to read everything there is to know about this course, download that brochure and take a look. It's yours to keep. The second thing you can do from the course website there is schedule a call with an advisor. We've talked about advisors throughout the program here today, throughout this informational session, but they really are closest to the details. So if you'd like more on the dates, the times, alumni access, some of the credentials and how that translates into your environment, your geography, if you'd like more information about flexible and transparent payment options, the registration and enrollment process, that is their purview. So they're going to be able to help walk you through some of those options, including special group enrollment pricing, a generous 21-day refund policy, and a lot of other areas to explore. So be sure to get connected with an advisor as you think about some of the logistical pieces, some of those registration and enrollment components, and then course policy questions you might have about your alumni access or what's next after this program. There on the website, you can download the brochure, connect with an advisor, or the third thing you can do is start that application. Either way, again, we want to make sure that you are well supported. So certainly let us know if there's anything that we can do to help answer any questions you have or walk you through next steps. Thank you to all of you for being here, for watching the show here today, for learning more about this program, and for your interest in this course. I am now going to invite back into the spotlight here our faculty. We'd love to hear again from our faculty here about this program. Any final words of wisdom, words of advice that you'd like to touch on as we close out our session today? And I'll hand it first over to you, Professor Hijazi.
You know, I think the two most important things everybody needs to think about is lifelong learning and networks, building relationships. And this program fills both of those buckets. I want everyone to remember the following. 80% of management jobs are filled before they're advertised. So we say at the Rotman School, excellence is the price of admission. What do I mean by that? You got to know your stuff, but that's not enough. You have to build relationships, and this program provides you the platform to learn all of this financial acumen. But as Marie eloquently said, to build a lot of relationships with people outside of your ecosystem, it's a win-win. Back over to you, Wendy.
Oh, I just want to say that I think we've designed a program that you'll enjoy, and you really will learn a lot that will benefit you both in your professional and personal lives. So congratulations for your interest in the program, and we hope you apply for it.
Thank you so much again to both of our professors for being here, taking us through this content, for designing this course, and for having the foresight to make this program available across the globe in this modality, certainly expanding access and extending beyond the reach of what's possible in a traditional classroom environment. So thank you both for being a part of this and for designing this program. For those of you with us, we hope you will join us. If you do have questions and related to course logistics, when does the course begin? Those, is there, what are the assignments? How are they graded? How do I earn the certificate of completion? Is there an exam for the program? And how does that certificate transfer into other advantages in terms of taking additional programs? All of those are really terrific questions, and your program advisors can walk you through the answers. So if you have questions related to logistics, course policy, assignments and grading and registration and enrollment, please do get connected with an advisor. They're going to give you the most up-to-date knowledge there. One question that we can answer here, how much of a time commitment in terms of number of hours? We estimate that 4 to 6 hours per week. That's really what you're looking for. And again, thank you to everyone involved here in the session. It's been an honor hosting here today. But for now, we're going to go ahead and sign off. We hope to see you soon, but we leave you now with a heartfelt good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good day. Thanks again for being here with us. See you soon. Bye-bye.